Hey, everybody out there in cyber world. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Really excited. Our second show here to do our second interview, other than Miguel and I interviewing ourselves, which probably shouldn't count as an interview anyway. So we've got Céline Higton on board here with us, and I think she's in London. I know she's in England somewhere today, but I didn't ask what particular city. And we got Richard Young, our moderator again, who's going to keep Miguel and I nice, which is a challenge. I get that, Richard. I know how troubling that is for. What's that? Yeah, cut us off, right? You'll just erase me and turn me off, which that's okay. I know. So anyway, so excited about this particular segment. One of my goals, or our goals, let's say, when we started the concept of an interview, was not just an interview that everybody keeps interviewing over and over and over again, the so-called A-listers or whatever, but great talent out there that we've just, been a great talent. Don't mean to diminish anything, but just maybe people hadn't heard about yet. And so that person tonight is Céline Higton, and she is fabulous. Richard turned me on to her about a month or so ago and said, hey, we got to get her on the show. So hi, everybody. This is Céline Higton from England, who might end up here in the United States. We're kind of hoping for that in the future. She does some wonderful stuff in adhesive dentistry and aesthetics. So anyway, we're excited to have her here. So tell us a little bit. First question I always like to ask people is, what got you interested in dentistry in the first place?
It's a very good question, Ed. I started off doing an architecture degree. So quite a way away from dentistry, and I put it this way, I wasn't enjoying it. I got 3 years in. I love the engineering aspect, I love the artistic element, but I wasn't really massively into the creative side, which I know sounds bizarre for dentistry, but actually there's different types of creatives, right? I'm more of a copy the image creative. So when I quit architecture, I was looking at medicine, and it's my father, who is not a dentist, he's a chemical engineer. And he said, right, you like art, you like science, and you like working with people. Why don't you be a dentist? And I looked at him and I was like, are you mad? What planet are you on? It makes no sense to me. And then I did some work experience, and it was kind of a gut feeling, really, from that point on.
Wow, okay. And do you have any other family members and things, brothers, sisters, cousins, anything like that?
Nada.
No,
not one.
Nobody.
No.
Same thing for me, too. Nobody in my family. Everybody was in the car business, McLaren, okay, except for me. But anyway, that's great. So tell us.
You related? Is that a joke or is that?
No, it's not. It is. So if you go up to my dad's great grandfather and come down, you hit Bruce McLaren. Yeah, my dad was in the car business. He had Newport Imports, and yeah. So I just wasn't interested. For whatever, it just wasn't a car guy. It was just not for me. But that's a whole other topic. We can talk about that some other day. Great. So you're obviously born in London somewhere. Where's your practice base today?
I work in Pangbourne, so it's just west of London. It's kind of near Reading, 40 minutes west of London. Speaking of cars, there's an Aston Martin garage and a Lamborghini garage just down the road, which I'm a massive car buff, so that absolutely tickles all of my fancies. But no, just not quite in London anymore. I was on Wimpole Street for a while, but I've decided the hustle and bustle of London is a little bit too much. I don't know if I'm starting to sound a bit too middle-aged, but hey ho.
So I think, did I hear you correctly? You have an Aston Martin?
I wish. Oh my God, I wish.
Yes. Well, I've got my James Bond hat on here, so that's another car.
As the moderator, you might ask her about what she rather rides other than a car.
Oh, just his chain. I'm more of a two-wheel girl rather than.
Oh, that's right. Richard sent a couple pictures. Wow. I mean, you even do some racing too, right? You do some racing.
Yes, I do. I'm not long for this world.
Well,
She races a McLaren of motorcycles.
Okay. What is that? Like a BMW or something? No. I don't know.
Ducati, Ed. A Ducati.
I've heard of the Ducati. Okay. Well, God, that's fascinating. How'd you get into that?
Oh, God, I came out of the womb with a love for two things, motorbikes and skiing, kind of as long as I can remember. So the bike thing has always been an obsession, really. I love it. There's just so much precision in it. It's, I mean, you might think I'm crazy here, but it's a bit similar to dentistry. The challenge, the precision, the minute improvements, the kind of the 1% improvement each time you go around. It's addictive. Right. Amazing.
Well, when you get to the United States, if you do, Richard's quite a good skier. I don't know if you guys have ever skied. He makes me jealous, all the fun stuff that he gets.
Talk about Marvin. She's a Stokely person, too.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay. So, other guys, you got a couple of questions? I got a whole bunch in my head, but I don't want to dominate the...
Let's get to it. Let's do it.
Okay.
So, all right, we go all the way back. Right, Céline? We go all the way back.
We actually do, Miguel. One of the very first lives, or kind of, I think anything that I ever did, was on Instagram with you during COVID. And at that point, I was this like shaking little thing. I still am a shaking little thing.
I have another question for you. And the question is because, I know a little bit of your story, whatever you told me. You went to architecture school. You did 3 years. You then went on a different direction. I also know, because we talked about in private years ago, that you have this on and off no personality. Do you have this on and off, at least affair with Instagram, let's say? And I wonder if that's an on and off also affair with life, in which you hate sections of your life and you need a switch. Am I reading that correctly? And if I am, can you explain to me what is the process of wanting change in periods of your life? And if I'm wrong, choose correctly.
Well, I think, no, you're right. You're so right in one way. The change thing, maybe not so much, but the switch thing, yes. But I put it in a way of kind of turning a switch on and off. So I'm an all or nothing kind of girl. I think we've already established that with the Ducatis and the skiing. And I find, no one can give 100% to 5 different things, right? So, for example, when I switch off Instagram for a bit, that's because I'm committing a bit more of my time to my family. Or when I'm committing more time to my Instagram is when I drop off the radar with my friends and family if they think I've died. And it's kind of this switch of things being on and off. I always say with my partner, I wouldn't necessarily say there's a priority order of things in life. It's more like there's 5 things lined up in a row and the spotlight just shines on different things at different times. With regard to change, I'm not one of those people who just jumps into a new thing every few years. That's not me at all. I kind of go where the wave takes me, as long as it feels right. But I think you're right. When you said the word switch, I was like, well, to me, that kind of makes sense with the light switch thing. But yeah, I mean,
in a way, what you describe is a life in sequence more than a life in parallel when it comes to projects or moments or aspects of your life. What are the positives and negatives of having a life in sequence? Because it interested me, because my life is, I run 20 things at once, and I always do. Yet my wife needs to do it in sequence. So I was always fascinated with people that are different than me. What are the pros and cons of running a life in sequence? Let's go.
I mean, I think running a life in sequence, you get to focus on one thing at a time, whether that be your career or, I mean, I say that this is an ideal world. This is kind of some Marxist utopia because it never works out that way. You're still trying to juggle all these different things. Yeah. I constantly feel like I'm spinning 8 different plates in the air. And that's just how I think every single person on this call probably feels the same. But I think, one of the big benefits of running things in sequence is you let it run its course, but you also do get to dedicate that much of your time to it. You can really get a gut feeling from it. If you're running lots of little things at the same time, your gut gets a bit confused. And I don't mean to sound all kind of thespian and woo-woo, but I do listen to my gut a lot, and I kind of listen to what my intuition is saying. And I think if you're really focusing on just one thing, your intuition will tell you a lot.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, to add to that, my life sort of bounces back and forth in that mode where I can focus really well for a period of time on a project, but then all of a sudden, I don't know, I get kind of bored quickly. So my wife says I just love chaos. I'm like the Peanuts character where all the crap falls on the ground. So Miguel, I think you're kind of a lot like me too, in the sense that it's good to have more than one thing going at once too. And I want you to expand on this motorcycle thing. So are you racing professionally, or is this just a very, very strong hobby? I'm fascinated.
It's a very, very strong hobby. It's something, again, I mean, the whole life in sequence thing, as I said, it's an ideal world, but it doesn't happen. Dentistry courses, life, motorbikes. I wish I could fit more time in for the bikes. I want to get my ACU, which is your race license, next year.
Okay.
Just because it's something I only started on track 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I've taken a real knack to it. I absolutely love it. All the trainers say it's quite exciting what they see. So why not? If dentistry doesn't go well, then I'll take up the motorbike thing.
Well, I'll
budget does it take?
Richard and Miguel, and we'll all come and watch one of your races when you let us know and stuff like that.
If I would like to have that hobby, what kind of budget does it take? What are we talking about?
That's got to be expensive. That's got to be very expensive.
I want to jump in. Of course, I need the motorcycle, but beyond that, what are we talking expenses if it's a hobby?
You need the motorbike. All bikes. I mean, motorbikes are kind of like skis, right? So once you take it to a certain level, you need different sets. You need all the kit. So a good set of leathers is $2,000-$3,000. A good helmet is $1,000. A few good helmets, $3,000. You need all the shoes, the airbags. Each time you go racing, so if you're doing circuits, you need a van to take your bike there. You need a toolkit. Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, needlework would be cheaper.
I see Richard checking websites right now to get the bike going.
Yeah.
Me, no, I'm never going to do. I actually got, but Celine's funny. I got my motorcycle license during COVID, and since I screwed myself up and crushed my hip a few years, but I just decided it's probably not smart to do it, even though it was something I had a idea to do. Well, that sounds fascinating. Well, coming back to dentistry, so because I think we're all here for dentistry, and we can talk more about stuff like that in a minute. So anyway, are you in private? Yeah, I know you're in private practice, but are you teaching a little bit, like at King's College or someplace like that? And how did you end up focusing really on aesthetics and adhesive dentistry?
All good questions. Yes, in private practice, which, I mean, in the UK, I don't know what you all know about the NHS, but it's not very easy to do
it's a challenge, yeah.
in the NHS, put it that way. So I learned a lot from it in my limited time on it. But private practice, I don't do any teaching in university. I have been asked in the past, or it's been discussed. And it's a challenging situation in the UK, again, because the universities are funded by the NHS. So when you're kind of a young budding dentist with not quite the same amount of debt that you had, but also expensive hobbies like motorbikes, it kind of made a bit more sense for me. Anyway, my heart was just saying I wanted to do dentistry. I wanted to do dentistry. I wanted to do art. I wanted to create. I wanted to use my hands. And that kind of leads on to your last question. So the teaching thing, yes, but only privately. So courses and lecturing and things. But the aesthetic dentistry thing, I think it's my love for art. I've always loved portraiture, so I draw faces.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Wow. And I have done since I was a kid.
Did you take a class, or was that all self-learned or self-taught?
No, it was all self-taught. It was, I mean, I think we're all a little bit on the spectrum as dentists. I mean that in the best way.
Yeah.
And the more I kind of think about it and look into it, the more I think, well, 100%, I definitely fall into that category, because I'll draw photorealism. I love it. Absolutely love it. Pencils, charcoal. And that kind of translates perfectly into dentistry, really, because that's what we're doing, right? We're copying an image. And I know you can relate to that, Ed. I mean, you're absolutely nuts at that stuff. You know, let's build a tooth from scratch, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's fun. Well, yeah, the same thing. It was just developed an interest and thought it was fun, and you get passionate about something. Interesting, you mentioned photorealistic art. So obviously you studied this a little bit. Did you read a little bit ever about Picasso's early life?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so interestingly, his father, most people don't know this, was actually an art teacher, okay? And as he started very young, I actually saw some drawings that he did when he was like 6, 7 years old, which looked worse than any other 6 or 7-year-old drawing I ever saw. It looked like bad sticks. You couldn't even tell what it was. And then he started to try to be very creative, let's say, as a young boy. But his father forced him, because being a teacher said, no, I don't want you to create anything. I want you to visualize what's in front of you and copy. So his dad wouldn't let him go off on his own until he could do photorealistic art.
Wow.
15 or 16. And so that's a very good lesson, that what you say, you have to learn to be good at anything that's art related, whether it's architecture, dentistry, portraiture, or sculpture. You have to learn first to visualize, and then secondly to copy. Okay.
Essentially, didn't Picasso continue to not be able to draw faces through his entire life?
No. About 17 or 18, if you looked at the images that he did or painted, they were literally photorealistic.
Okay. He probably got tired of that and completely switched.
Yeah, that's what happened. Okay, then his dad let him loose, and he developed a style that we all seen, everybody's seen by now. Oh, that's awesome. So you're teaching courses, I guess. So I see that you're going to be in the United States. It's fun talking about art, and I think you're doing a course on isolation, I believe in April, as I saw. So tell us a little bit about that, but also tell us, because literally, I'm not exaggerating, she does some of the nicest freehand bonding I've seen anywhere in the world, as good as anybody that you've ever seen out there. So are you doing any course soon in the United States people might be interested in?
Well, that means a heck of a lot coming from you, Ed. I can retire now. But yeah, the course in the States, I've been running courses in the UK for a while, and for some reason, and you know what, Miguel, actually, I think it's off the back of that live I did with you during COVID, I've got quite a big American following. And so when all these courses are going, so thank you for that. So all these courses in the UK, people are asking the States, when are you coming to the States, when are you coming to the States, when are you coming to the States? And I just thought, well, why not come to the States? So I happened to be in America last December. I was with Amanda C. and Adamo in Charleston. And I was just mentioning that I was wanted to run a course in the States. And that's when Perry Levitt's Center came up. And it all kind of made perfect sense, because the course is tried and tested, works really well. And a lot of American dentists I've spoken to, and this might be a contentious issue, this might be a contentious opinion, it might not be, and there's all sorts of different types of dentistry, but a lot have said there's a lot of need for good rubber dam courses out there. It's something that kind of needs to be picked up on a bit. So I thought, okay, right, well, I'll just find my niche, or my niche, as you guys say.
Right. And I know you do a fabulous course there, but I'd strongly recommend you put a couple of bonding courses on the books too, because I think you're going to find maybe a little more interest there because people just don't know how to do that. But also to give a plug to Miguel, he does a fabulous isolation rubber dam course too. So,
So, Céline, my question for you is, how we met originally was when it's kind of funny, it was a tongue-in-cheek, on Instagram, she posted the use of an explorer to put a rubber dam. And in 1983, Dr. Greaves out of Australia was our rubber dam guru at Loma Linda. That's how he taught us to work, was with an explorer in 83. And so my question to you is, in comparison to the United States schools, for instance, Loma Linda, rubber dam is a given. You have to use rubber dam all the way through your education. Most students don't even never want to touch it again. A lot of us have done that since that day and had never really left rubber dam. How is it in England? And then number two, you're in a group of photographers here, as you know. Ed and I, Miguel, go back a long ways. Ed and I, over 40 years in dental photography. Who was your mentors and who influenced you?
a great question.
In rubber dam and photography. Kind of curious, because that was the other thing I noticed about your site immediately, was your lighting was really clean. It was really pure. It wasn't overly diffused. It was really high quality, and that's what caught my eye on your Instagram originally.
Oh well, again, that means a lot. I'm going to be saying that a lot. Good questions. I think rubber dam, the uptake of it around the world, is great amongst those who are passionate, and not so great amongst those who are not passionate about it. It's something, because it's not a treatment. You don't need to do it. It's not something you have to follow through with. Whereas, you start with veneer preparation, it starts going wrong, well, you've got to finish it. Whereas rubber dam, it's one of the first things people give up on. It's the same in the UK, where when I trained not too long ago, we did everything under rubber dam, but it wasn't particularly well taught. It was very much like, here's a dam, here's a clamp, make it work. So, well, honestly, it was put a hole in it, try any clamp that works, and it was just kind of, there was no method to the madness, and it was really a bit of a lottery. And so I think a lot of people did give up on it afterwards. I just happened to work in a very wonderful but quite outdated practice as my first job, and they didn't have any rubber dam equipment. So the guy said, hey, do you want to just buy what you want then? So I started looking at the ordering book, being like, right, okay, let's think about this. Okay, right, I want a square clamp for a square tooth. I want an asymmetric clamp for an asymmetric tooth. So I started kind of putting it together there. Right. But a huge part of my rubber dam and photography story was a dentist called Thomas Taha, who works here in the UK.
Sounds right.
Yeah, his Instagram account is drth.co.uk. He works in Abingdon. He is just on another level. He wanted to be an artist. He was born to be an artist. He admits that he'd like to be an artist, but he's settled with dentistry, and he does that kind of dentistry. So a lot of my rubber dam inspiration came from him. His was the first course I did when I qualified in 2017, and I just was inspired from that day on. He helped me a lot with photography, but then a huge help for my photography was a guy called Minesh Patel, who's got an amazing. Sorry,
he did a couple books about 10, 12 years ago, right? I think
or
at least one.
Did Minesh, no books. He's quite young. He's been qualified for about 10 years.
It's really good.
Maybe longer than that, 15 years.
It's
but he's phenomenal. His photography, the way he thinks, he is a lateral thinker. He's a problem solver. He's an innovator. So he, the way he looks at it, it's not every single practice has the space to have a giant softboxes, softboxes on the ceiling.
Yeah.
So he has created a photography course where it's all done on the camera. And I've changed the diffusers I use. I changed some of the systems I use, actually, thanks to Richard Young, who's my next biggest inspiration for photography. So it's kind of been on a journey in that sense.
Yeah, and just to add, Richard's been great. When I ran a program at UCLA full time, as you know, up till a few years ago, and Richard was phenomenal. He came out every year, volunteered, and taught my students, and I just was always amazed at the practicality of how he did everything, plus the quality of everything. So, well, great. So the other piece of that pie was what got you fascinated with adhesive dentistry, because as we all know, everything in dentistry, but especially that, is just getting dumbed down to mix something up and you're done. And they expect it to stick to the teeth, stick to the restoration, stick to everything, and we all know that it doesn't. And so that's its own. It ought to be its own specialty to a certain extent, but you do it at a top level. And just like you were saying, what happens in England, the same thing's happening in the United States. It's literally scary what's going on in the United States in dental education. For lots of reasons. They just don't have the people to teach. Number two, the economics of it is so poor. When I left UCLA, just to give you an idea, from when I started and left, they only have a requirement after 4 years to do 5 crowns. They graduate doing 5 crowns. Think about that. Richard does, some of us do that in an hour some days, right? Okay, imagine your skill set, your abilities, if you've done 5 crowns your whole dental school career. And that's not too dissimilar what's happening around the United States. So my question was, what got you motivated, or who were your mentors in adhesive dentistry?
It's the same here in the UK. When I qualified dental school, I was fortunate. I'd done over 200 composites, and I think I did 4 amalgams, which is
awesome.
unheard of. Is unheard of. Normally in this country, it's the other way around. But King's is a real pioneer. Yeah, in this country, exactly. If you're lucky. Yeah. So I think it started at King's really. It's got its shortcomings like every university does, but it's got some amazing qualities there. And one of them was to be a real spearhead driver for adhesive dentistry.
Good.
For those qualifying today. Was it the adhesive dentistry I know now? No, it was a foundation level, as all university is.
Yeah.
But it just made a lot of sense to me. It was, if you're looking at getting a hip replaced, you're getting ceramic hips, you're getting the newer age materials. You don't see people using the older age materials that they used 20 years ago. Right. Whereas for some reason in dentistry, we think that's okay. Right. We think it's okay just to, I'm good at placing my dentine pins. I've been placing dentine pins for 40 years, so I'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
It's an odd system. So to me, it just made sense, the adhesive dentistry journey. I was very, very lucky, I think, to qualify in the time of Instagram, where you suddenly have connections and contacts with dentists around the world, leaders around the world in their field. You can see what they're doing. You can be inspired by what they're doing. You can see what's possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's what kind of spearheaded my journey even more. Whereas if I'd qualified 20, 30 years ago, like when you guys did, when there was no Instagram, no social media, you couldn't see what was out there, and you really just learned from who you were around or from the conferences you went to.
That was our topic of our first show, that the conferences, even still today, but you can't get on the stage unless you've unless you're related to somebody, it seems like today, right? Okay, I could go down.
I know. That's the guy I know.
I could go down a rabbit hole there. But
the Keystone Golden.
Yeah.
No, we don't want to. We're gonna pee.
No. Listen, well, we already did that. We already did that rave and a rant. But
bitchy.
But so too. And then that's the wonderful thing about Instagram. Obviously, the other side of it is as self-appointed experts that have just get out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what. We'll make sure we market our course here. And then I think maybe between the three of us, we see if we can help organize a bonding course. I don't know if Miguel told you, but he's building a brand new facility. I'd love to come out and take it. So
it's going to be amazing.
That would be awesome. And then I got some friends I can introduce you to in the United States. You probably know them anyway. They got training facilities. One of my good friends, Tony Sedler, owns Burbank Dental Lab. He'll let anybody use his training center for free. Great. We can certainly help in that area. Miguel, you got another little follow-up question, and we'll kind of...
I do. People don't know, but 3 years ago, Céline and I were talking about doing a course together. We had it all lined up. And then she went in another direction, business-wise, project-wise. Without naming names, Céline, without trying to throw any shade to anybody. Tell me about that experience of working with that group that you worked for a while and then you left. What did you see? What did you experience?
I learned a lot. I joined it. I'll tell you why I joined it. So I was being asked to lecture somewhere, and I was speaking to a guy who's a member, and he said, "What are you charging?" And I said, "I'm not." And he said, "Why aren't you charging anything?" I was like, "Well, I don't know what to charge." And he was like, "Oh God, say no more. Say no more. You need to meet this guy because you need to learn." Little caterpillar. So I joined it, and I learned a lot about business in that way. So stuff that as you all know, as dentists who lecture and educate, you kind of have to learn this stuff on the job. There's no instruction manual. There's no one teaching you. There's no one saying, especially if you're from the UK, you're lecturing the US, rates are very different. So to learn these things.
Right.
So I learned a lot in that way. I met some amazing people. I met some lovely people, some people who I already knew very well before. But in all honesty, I left because everything that I'm achieving now with my career and everything I had achieved to that point were all my own. I hadn't relied on that group for anything. It hadn't got me into any organizations or anything like that. And there was a part of me that thought, you know what, I'm doing okay by myself. So I'm going to keep going by myself with friends around me, but without being kind of committed to a group like that was my thinking.
A true artist.
Who's organizing your courses here in the US? It's just you, or somebody's bringing you in? How are you doing it?
It's just me. So it's I spoke to a guy called Paul Renan, who works with a guy called Carrie Levitt. Carrie's got his training institute down in Vegas. And so Carrie and I had met before at a conference last year. So it kind of all worked out, really. And I mean, as you well know, the marketing piece, that is social media, I guess. So I kind of went off the back of, right, well, there's interest for it. People want me to do it. So it's just that. But it's the same in the UK. It's just me. I wish it wasn't. I wish I had a team and all of that. But it's just me for now.
No, Ed and I know what that means.
I got to agree with you. I've gone through that whole cycle over 40 years, being with somebody that marketed me, giving somebody half off the top. And it was just as much work and just less profitable if I just did it myself and I had a little bit more control. You know, it's a lot of extra work, though.
Nothing that was promised is there. So you sign a contract, you say, I need this room, this AV, you get there and nothing's there.
Yeah, well, we've all been there. Well, great. Let's wrap up now. So, Céline, love to, any final thoughts, anything that you want to add. Like I said, we're loving it if you show up in the United States, but if not, we got a trip to England. We got a plan, Richard. We got to go.
Oh, absolutely. How much fun would that be? I'll take you all on the tour of London on the back of a motorbike. And you can go in the sidecar.
Let's do it. Okay. Well, thanks Céline, and go. Sorry, Richard. Some final thoughts, buddy.
Where was your last ski trip?
When was my last? Over Christmas. I'm spoiled. I ski every Christmas. Always in Maribel. Always in the French Alps. So that's a home from home for me.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Miguel, any thoughts? Any last thoughts, buddy?
Céline, it's just nice to see you. Nice to know that you might be heading to the US to continue the courses. The Dental Academy doors are still open, so we can also...
Thank you, Miguel.
Céline, so you're having a course in Las Vegas, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
When is this course? What is it about? Is it 1 day, 2 day, hands-on?
It's 2 days. 2 days. 2 days rubber dam, which a lot of people think 2 days in rubber dam, are you mad? But for me, it feels like it's not enough. So it's 2 days on, I believe, the 11th and 12th, but my head is now saying 12th and 13th. But it's on the Friday, Saturday of April, essentially. I need to remember those dates. 2 days.
The weekend before the weekend before the ACP. The ACD.
Weekend after AACD.
Weekend after ACD. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. So it's didactic and hands-on. So day one is kind of straightforward rubber dam. It's all on phantom heads, and that's a big change I've made with all my hands-on courses. So I've bought all my own phantom heads, and I think for rubber dam especially, it is essential to train on a phantom head with soft tissues, because otherwise you're just putting it down on a typodont and it turns into a trampoline. And we all know that's not the same as a mouth. Yep. So day one is kind of the more straightforward scenarios. And day two is the more advanced kind of deep margin elevation, last standing molar, injection molding, veneer fits. And a combination of hands-on and didactic for 20 delegates, 2 days of fun, enthusiasm.
Where can people sign up?
Online. So I have a website. It's isolate-usa.com.
Isolate.
Yeah.
We'll put some copies, some text on there when we have it.
I use her plexiglass or rubber dam device every day.
Yeah. We know Richard. He wants to put a rubber dam on my face. So, all right, everybody. Well, thanks for tuning in, and Céline, a special thank you for being here on this. And so we're looking forward to your course and everything. Thanks, everybody. So
Thanks, Céline.
See you all.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.